I think he came from corporate. I think he just inquired.
Bill Kelly signed?
I think Bill Collett maybe.
Put this underneath here.
Probably on the side here is better.
Okay. So here's his pen, badge, pink with this.
So testing 1, 2, 3.
This was they were in 87. The three
I'm working on it. All rise. Oh, wait, sorry. Well, welcome everybody. We had a spirited, fun board meeting, and everybody came in here and sat down and got an early start to the day. I feel like we're running really late, not just a minute late. Thanks for keeping me on track, fellas. Let us ask, let's see, Holly, why don't you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if maybe Roger Smith can lead us in the four-way. I don't know why I look around the whole room, and he's always right in front, but I still look around the whole room, even though he's right there. Jack, if you can give us an invocation, everybody please bow your heads.
Dear God, we give thanks for this beautiful day and for the guests that are with us. We ask a blessing on the Rotarians here and around the world and the projects that they're involved with. Bless this food and this meeting to our use. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Go ahead and take your seats.
They're not even looking at so I'm not saying around because they're going to give me that for me or the 3-year-olds. So the best way to see it, I'll say
Don't glare. I mean, one's gonna come in.
All righty, so we got a whole bunch going on today. We are obviously going to introduce the guests we have here today. You're not going to believe this, but we have a new member and all of the cool stuff that the new member gets. So we're going to be inducting Tim today. I know it. I'm actually tired of getting fined for it, so I may as well actually get this thing done. Of course, we have Happy Dollars and club business and announcements. The Queen of Diamonds, I know that's the only reason why many of you come to these meetings is the Queen of Diamonds. Fun and frolic with a guest find master, someone you don't see very often come up here, but when he does, it is really enjoyable. So it'll be fun. And then of course our guest speaker, who is not sitting here right now, and then we'll be done. So let's welcome guests. We do have the official table of guests over there, table 6, and all of the guests are color coordinated in their attire. Maybe let's have both of you guys go ahead and stand up. Go ahead and stand up. Anastasia and Michelle, look, they're color coordinated. They just met each other. And you guys can sit down now. So that's Anastasia's been here before. She's a realtor. Michelle is a guest of the club. She is with Northwestern Mutual. She's a recruiter for some of you guys that are in financial services, you want to go to, Northwestern Mutual, you could talk to her. And I know I'm doing this all wrong, but we do have Bill Kelly, go ahead and introduce for the very last time that guest at your table. You will hear Tim's story much shorter than you are expecting, because those are the only three. They're all at one table, all of our guests here today. So what I would like to do now is ask Michael Erickson, the godfather of Rotary, to come on up and induct our new member. Michael Erickson, everybody. Oh, look at that. Just when I think I'm not going to get fined for one thing, all of a sudden I'm going to get fined for something else. Roger Smith, you've got a guest at your table. I was waiting. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow members of the Summer Upper State Christmas Club. Next to American success stories. And I was going to kind of just slip past this because she wasn't in the room, but we do have our guest speaker here today, Jerry. Wave. Hi there. You're going to hear a lot from her later on. Great stories. All right. My wallet's going to get much emptier. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Erickson. Woo!
And will Bill Kelly join me up here? I think you officially signed. And will Tim, will you join us up here? Fellow Rotarians, it is the duty of our Rotary Club to add new members from time to time, so that we may not only increase our usefulness and influence as a club, but also to extend the spirit of Rotary throughout the community. Today, I welcome to our ranks and midterm membership, Tim Cohagen. Rotarians, Tim, you have been elected to membership in this club because your fellow members believe you are worthy representative of your calling and also possess the qualities that will permit you to exemplify in your public, business, social, and private life the true spirit of Rotary. I wish to impress upon you that you have been admitted not only to the Rotary Club of Schaumburg-Hoffman Estates, but also to a worldwide association. By virtue of your membership in this club, you'll be welcomed into the fellowship of any Rotary club in the world. The honor and privilege of Rotary membership carries with it duties and obligations. You'll be expected to attend the club's meetings regularly, to perform your share of club service, and to place your knowledge and talents at the disposal of the club in its task of carrying the principles of Rotary and the daily life of the community. I ask all the members to rise. Rotarian Tim, in the name of the Rotary Club of Schaumburg-Hoffman Estates, I now formally admit you to the membership in this club. And Mr. Kelly, will you please pin his label and give him his pin?
Fumbling.
It's all magnets now.
I know. Fellow Rotarians, I commend you, our newest member, Rotarian Tim Cohagen. Who has been loaned the classification of marketing. I wish everyone to greet him on our way out at the end of the meeting today. And Tim, we spent a couple minutes giving us your background.
All right. Well, thank you. I didn't know if that was going to happen, but I kept coming back, just waiting. My name's Tim Cohagen. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. Moved here from New York City. I lived in New York City for 13 years. I went there right a week before 9/11, got an apartment, went home to pack. 9/11 happened, and then I went back the week after. So I got to see a lot of the camaraderie that happened and how everybody kind of came together in that environment. I I lived there for, like I said, 13 years till I met my wife, and we had a child and decided that a New York City expensive apartment wasn't the place to raise a family. So we moved out to New Jersey, which we were there for 5 months. And then Hurricane Sandy came and dropped some trees on our condo. So we decided we were coming back to the Midwest. She's from Minnesota. She has family in Lake in the Hills. So we decided we're getting out of the East Coast. And so moved here about 8 years ago. Been living here I do marketing for a living. I do online advertising. In my fun time, I hang out with my kids and I do online advertising. That's about all I do. I don't know many people because moving here, not knowing anybody. So part of coming here my mom's a Rotarian, and it took her, so I'll be 50 next year. So a very long time to tell me that maybe I should go to Rotary. And so I love coming here, and I appreciate you having me. Some of the other things I do outside of marketing is I'm on the board of a nonprofit. It's called Restoring Lives, Overcoming Addictions. It helps people coming out of addiction recovery centers and helping them establish jobs. We do sober living. We help them find a place to live. And so that's my passion. And another area that I'm very passionate is my 9-year-old daughter's a type 1 diabetic. She was diagnosed 4 years ago, and I probably haven't slept more than 3 hours a wink in the past 4 years, and I never will again because I'm constantly checking her insulin. So type 1 diabetes really is affecting a lot of, especially our young individuals. Thankfully, there's a lot of technology behind that, but that's another passion area of mine. So that's me. I'm very sarcastic, so I hope I don't hurt your feelings in any way. Don't take most of what I say very seriously. So just yes, one. All right, so that's me. So don't kick me out if I hurt your feelings. I don't mean to. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, President.
President.
Your first new member.
No, just like.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Thanks,
I'll
guys.
control myself with Michael Erickson.
Thank you.
Yes. And Tim, if we kicked out people for being sarcastic, there would be nobody in this room. So. Nope, not that. All right. So don't have time for that today. The Rotary good news of the week. Holy cow. Lots of amazing things happening, but this last night was unbelievable. I was, oh yeah, look at that. I was, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, I was lucky enough to be in BNI, and we wrote this member success program, and it was all around the world. Everybody got their input, Australia. So I had to get up in the middle of the night to make it convenient for Australia and different things like that. But we all spoke English, well, as best as I could. And last night was super cool. We had the virtual ACE2 sponsor gathering on Zoom. All of these wonderful people. We got to hear Pat and Bill Kelly and our district governor, Kevin, said a few words, and then just getting everything interpreted. So, you know, you think Pat sounds amazing. Just you should hear her interpreter talking in Taiwanese. Or we even had Lauren Childers. She was talking Mandarin. She and her daughter has taken Mandarin, and so everybody got a kick out of her talking Mandarin, which was kind of cool. So thanks, Pat, for organizing that. Bill Kelly, our international director, and everybody else that was on there. Jean Schlinkman too. She's well prominent on there, and it was really unbelievable. Whenever you guys have an opportunity to do something internationally, especially on Zoom, where you could just be in Taiwan in your own, do it. I mean, just really neat perspective on everything. All right, well, that's that. This week, anywhere in Rotary, it's a Happy International Peace Day, celebrating supporting girl empowerment. So we'll get you, there's lots of great information on that. But I saw that on somebody's Facebook post. I think it might have been the AM Club had a lot of fun there. And then more news in Rotary. The club board last week voted to challenge the Arlington Heights Club on net membership for this year. So it's us against them. This was organized by the Godfather who said we got to get a little competition going here between the two families, the Arlington Heights and the Schaumburg Hoffman. That's mine. Thank you, Godfather. Thank you. Thank you. Here all week. So from July 1st through the middle of June, we will go net membership. We're getting ahead of the ball game, then falling behind, then getting ahead and then falling behind, but we'll get there. And same thing with Arlington. So it'll be fun. Losing Club donates $1,000 to the foundation. And so that should be kind of interesting. Yes.
You forgot one of the power points up there. We will not take any resignations until the 16th of June.
Right.
Doesn't matter what you hear or not.
Exactly. Not yeah, none of this is the truth. None of it's fair at all. Anyway, yeah, no, it should be fun. If you want to visit the Arlington group and poison them a little bit, that'd be great. Spread some root. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. All right, happy dollars. I do have one happy thing. My son plays college football and you can watch it and things like that. But when you're live, you don't get to watch it. So this was kind of cool where I was watching it this morning, last week's game, and it's nothing really to see. It's just something to hear. So hopefully it comes up.
Today for Upper Iowa, Eddie Ghosh, a 6'6", 315-pound senior. That's a mammoth of a man.
Oh man, yeah, but 6'6", man, that he is a mammoth of a man. So that was kind of fun. So I had some $5 happy dollars for that. He's improving every week. It was his best game I've ever seen him play, even though they lost. It's the best game I ever saw him play, coming off of probably the worst game I ever saw him play, but don't tell him that. So that's great improvements. Anybody else happy today? We got Don Miner, who's also volunteering to collect.
I can do that. I have $5 happy dollars and some concern dollars. I bring a message from Eileen Higginbotham. Eileen is at Mayo Clinic this week, getting some diagnostics done. They have ruled out a lot of bad stuff, but they haven't found what the cause or the issue is. And she sends greetings, and hopefully you can send some energy and thoughtful prayers to her way. So with that, I give it $5.
Very cool. Don, you don't forget you volunteered to collect too. Yeah. Bill.
In Oklahoma City last week, and my oldest granddaughter got married.
Oh, very cool. Very nice. I'm going to go over here to Pat, only because she took a sip, and that's very rude.
I have 10 happy dollars because last night's meeting is over.
It also goes to prove that you can have technical difficulties in any language in any country. So, Ted.
Today I weighed in at 168.4 pounds. I have lost 128 pounds, 126, and 2 pounds away from where I was in high school.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Very nice. Bill Kelly.
I have 10 happy dollars. 5 is for Jack Rawwald, who did just a phenomenal job organizing and presenting it last night. And I know it's a tremendous he is the administrator, especially for these two. And another 5 happy dollars for just, I can't tell you, if you have not been to Yellowstone National Park and the Grand Tetons, it is unbelievable. I will just share one memory. We were there Tuesday through Tuesday, and Sunday night we went to sleep, and it snowed, woke up, and the top third of the Grand Tetons was snow-capped. It was just the most awesome sight we've ever been able.
Very cool. Terry Park.
Joanne and I just came back from Mount Rushmore, and I will tell you the same thing. If you don't want to worry about traveling, far. You can go to Mount Rushmore. It's beautiful. And you get to see the country that we live in. It was phenomenal. So I recommend it as a trip. And I have another happy dollar for the Bears one.
All right, we got Tim over here. Hey. We got Bruce over here.
Every now and then I've announced that Holly and I have been singing with a chorus that sings a jazz gospel version of Handel's Messiah every January. And it's a wondrous thing to hear from the audience, which I did 4 times, and it's even more wondrous to sing. This year, because of COVID, they had to cut the numbers of the choir. So instead of having a 100-member choir, it's going to be more like a 40-member choir this year. Full orchestra, but they couldn't jack our numbers. So there was real competition to get in. And I am like $20 happy that both Holly and I made the.
I'll keep that in mind. My birthday's next month. I've been saving up for it. Yeah. Well, why don't we hear Holly's happy dollars at least? Go ahead.
Well, for the same reason. I mean, I am absolutely just privileged and so grateful to have a place in this choir. And in January, that will be the fellowship event for the club. And we can get special discount tickets. It's the performances at the Auditorium Theater on Martin Luther King weekend.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to be organizing that and we'll be filling in everyone on the details. But we can secure those tickets at a discount because we're part of the performance. But
nice.
It is just a highlight of my life. And I'm just thrilled to be part of it with my buddy.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, I got to hear it one more time. It's way too fun.
Eddie goes 6'6", 15-pound senior. That's a method of a man.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. That time. Okay, club announcements. I'm guessing that who wants to go first here? You go. All right. So we'll have to do that one and then come back. See, yeah.
You're on top of things. Hi. Well, your fellowship committee has been hard at work and we have some great things in store for you. So we'll start with saving the date of December 3rd, Friday night, for our annual holiday party. We've got some great things, some secret things going on. It's going to be different this year. So save that date. But coming up is our October Fest. And I'm going to send around a sign-up sheet. And again, this is strictly going to be a fellowship event. No entertainment, no games, no nothing. We get to sit and visit with our friends. So sign up. That is on Saturday, October 23rd. You can sign up online too. Thank you. We want to see you. And Tim, we can become your new best friends.
Okay, this is almost the last time you're going to hear from me because I'm not going to be here next week. But yeah, you guys, we have 2 weeks left for the vacation drawing. So let's just close it out. We so far are up to $22,900. So we're doing well, but we really need to make our $25,000 goal. Ooh, please, please, please. I know we can do it. I know we can do it, guys. I have more tickets if you need them. Think about those last few people like, oh, I forgot to ask them or them. So let me know if you'd like some more tickets. Thank you.
Anyone else before we get into, guys, just the excitement here is just unbelievable. We've got the Queen of Diamonds. We are up well over, I don't know, $5,500 on this one. And we're running out of cards. So this Queen of Diamonds ruined nicely by Terry Park a long time ago from the Queen of Diamonds being the first one to pick. Let's get our picker wheel up and running here. And this is when we lose the internet. All right, so here we go. And I have a feeling, oh wait, you know what? We should probably mix it up, right? So where is it? Here it is. All right, there. No, not that one. That one. Shuffle. And we shuffle. Ready? I don't think I'm giving this enough credit. Here we go. Oh, and it's loud, baby. Woo! Oh, where it stops, nobody knows, but here it goes. Oh, Mary Jo. Mary Jo is not here. So by rule, the lowest number on the board is
Number 14.
number 14. So we're going to get the hammer and chisel for this.
We need the Sawzall.
There you go. Yeah, while we're waiting.
Today for Upper Iowa, Eddie Goes, a 6'15" senior. That's a mammoth of a man.
All right. Now I'm just showing off.
Is
Now, Tom, is that $5 for each time you show it?
Oh, yeah. Wah, wah, wah. All right, we'll be able to lament our losses by enjoying our lunch for a little while. Then we'll have our fabulous fun and frolic with our surprise guest fun and frolic fine master in just a little bit.
very, very, very How is this possible? I'm looking at snow, it's 102 degrees out. All about yeah. She's like, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Are you ready there? Ready to go? Yes. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest, Fun and Frolic Fine Master today. When I saw this name come across my desk as the Fun and Frolic guy, I was just so excited, very excited. And with that, I would like to invite Daryl Moon up here as our Fun and Frolic Fine Master today. Look at all the thunderous applause.
Can you hear me? Okay, I'll get closer. So, yeah, I do this every once in a while, not very often anymore, but it's always fun. And I thought today I would just be nice and easy and have questions everyone will know the answer to, so you won't have to pay hardly any money. Now, it's $1 for every incorrect answer you give, max 5. No pin, no badge, buck a piece. Who's paying? Who's paying? Okay. Anyone who has not had surgery in the last month. No, who's had surgery? Bob? Bob had surgery. Ed's had surgery. Is that all? Holy cow. Geez, I could do this forever. Well, so I also thought maybe that we got a lot of new members, Tim. And I thought that because I've been around here for quite a while, I'd have some questions for you to answer. And I'm going to give you your choice, multiple choice again. So you can listen to this carefully and then in your mind, pick one of the number of answers. And Tim, I know you're going to know all these answers. So, and these happen to be things about me. So the best man at my wedding with Debbie was one of these 4 people. Her brother, Bob Keller, Terry Park, or Ed Haig. Who thinks it was Debbie's brother? She doesn't have a brother. Bob Keller. Bob Keller. I brought him into the club for pizza. No? Okay. Terry Park. Okay, so I guess everybody knows already, huh? What, did you pass this around? Did somebody take this off my laptop or something? I mean, what? And how about Ed Haig? Okay, Ed, who was it? Bob. Okay, so we do have some bag people up, right? Okay. So I grew up in Minnesota. Now you got 4 choices here. These are actually towns in Minnesota, by the way. Red Wing. Everybody knows shoes and that kind of stuff, right? Winona State, St. Mary's. A lot of kids from here go there. Duluth, which is way the hell up in the northern part, or Rochester. So who thinks it was Red Wing? Nobody. Winona. Duluth. And Rochester. I guess a lot of people do know me. So I think I'm seeing a trend here, because it seems like all the new people have not put their hand up much and don't know much of these. Well, here's one I'm not sure too many of you know, but when I was in high school, my sister and I won tickets to go to a concert of a very popular rock and roll group. And it was on August 21st, 1965. Didn't think I was that old, did you? Right? Who votes for that? Now, who wants to pass on by insult? No, never mind. So here are your choices: the Beatles, the Byrds, Herman's Hermits, and Rolling Stones. Who thinks it was the Beatles? Who thinks it was the Byrds? Are you the only one that knows who the Byrds were? Is that what's Herman's Hermits? Rolling Stones. My gosh, those are bad boys. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so the answer is the Beatles. And we also went to the, we also went to the thing that they do, you know, they're before, and no, not the, it's where they come in front of all the newspapers, all that kind of stuff. Huh? Yeah. So I've got pictures of them from maybe here to anybody over that table there, which is pretty good, but I kind of keep them in there on slides. So I probably ought to get those transferred over soon. Okay, so I really like playing golf. I've like playing golf a lot. So I'm going to ask now, here are the answers on how many times I've gotten a hole in one. 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Who thinks 0? Who thinks 1? 2? No. 3? Nobody thinks 3. How about 4? Vince is right. So let me explain what that means about golf. The only thing that you have to do is shoot a lot. You have to get up and you have to hit the ball toward the par 3 and put it in. Because obviously I'm not good enough to get it in on any regular basis, but it did happen. It happened 4 times. So have a good day.
Man. Whoops. Well, now that the finding is over, I won't even mention that in 1965, not only was I not born, but my parents were not married. So, yeah, I'm a youngin'. As we're getting settled up here. I bet you want them to pay attention a little bit, right? Yeah. All right. All the murmuring has subsided. We've figured out all of the fines and frolicking. And just remember, guys, it was for the kids. This week, Mary Jo Shepard has arranged a great speaker with some wonderful stories. I've already heard her talk a little bit about them. And she is also selling as a donation the coloring books that she's talking about. They're up in the front. And with a rounding applause, let's invite Jerry Davis up here to talk about her cancer story.
Thank you very much. I hope I can read my typing. I realize it's a little smaller than I thought it was when I printed it. So. And I thank you so much for inviting me to talk with you today about the fact that I created a coloring book about cancer and chemotherapy to basically get my mind off of cancer and chemotherapy. And I told Tom earlier, I have so many stories about the experience. I ended up writing basically 7 pages worth of a script here because I don't want to lose the focus. There's so many tangents I could go off on here and different things that happen, but I want to kind of stay true to the story and get us from start to finish and then be ready for questions. So I'll start with here. Looking back, it was a whirlwind year. As a matter of fact, I described it as riding in the motorcycle sidecar of life, and someone pulled the pin out at the top of a runaway truck ramp. I just went spinning down into cancer. Here's how it unfolded. On Monday, September 21st, 2020, I got out of the hospital. So it's been a year ago this week. I was released after 8 action-packed, kind of bizarre days of diagnosis and treatment for diffuse large B-cell non-Hodgkin lymphoma. The ultimate clue was a piece of chicken that was stuck in my throat, so let me backpedal. Over the summer of 2020, I started to feel what I thought were my usual seasonal allergies, a little bit of a scratchy throat, maybe even a little bit of a stiff neck. And the news kept warning about how bad the allergy season was going to be, so I just kept thinking, well, over-the-counter meds are going to be what gets me through this. but it never suggested anymore. And then finally on Labor Day 2020, I ended up in the emergency room. I had eaten a piece of chicken. It got stuck in my throat. It wasn't causing me to choke. It was just kind of there. I could breathe, I could swallow around it, but it was just kind of almost like a nuisance. The next day it was still there. So I went to the emergency room at Central DuPage Hospital and I had an endoscopy. And they removed the piece of chicken, but the attending doctor suggested that I get a CAT scan because he felt that there was something pressing on my throat that was causing this condition. So the next day I called to schedule my CT, but this was in the middle of COVID. Everything was crowded, everything was kind of askew. And they told me that it was 3 weeks out before I could get my CAT scan, unless the doctor ordered it stat. So I proceeded to check with my doctor and he ordered it stat, which got me 2 weeks out as opposed to 3 weeks out. My symptoms didn't want to wait. Within a week, I got progressively worse. I was unable to ultimately eat or swallow. Soon fluids wouldn't even go down. They started making me aspirate. I was coughing incessantly to the point where I couldn't even lay down or sleep at night. I let this go on way too long. My next trip to the ER was the following Monday after the endoscopy, September 14th, and I was admitted. The emergency CT scan that they finally did showed a large mass surrounding my thyroid, and not being able to swallow or drink were obviously causes for alarm. Oddly, my oxygen intake was really good through all this, and I was able to breathe, so there was no intubation or anything like that required, but I felt like I was still functional. I think that was probably why I was able to kind of put this off and think that I could get through this on my own when obviously I couldn't. The symptoms became so extreme in mere days, and they wheeled me out of the emergency room. The doctor looked at me, gesturing wildly. Didn't you see your neck? And like my neck was swollen to the one side, but it really rapidly gotten that way. And I guess I thought that maybe my lymph glands were swollen or something like that. I didn't, there was nothing in my brain that made me think, oh, this is cancer. This is something as serious as it was. But I did learn that the CT scan revealed a mass in my neck around my thyroid, and my trachea was now sideways. So that explains why stuff was getting caught in my throat. That explains why I couldn't swallow. That explains why I was basically aspirating. Water was too thin. It was just making me choke. And I hadn't eaten in days. I couldn't sleep. And I was admitted. I'm laying there in bed finally at 4 a.m. wondering, what could possibly be the next bizarre thing that's going to come my way. And the nurses showed up to put in the NG tube. Like, oh, of course. Well, and because of my sideways trachea, it took several tries. But it was during the course of this that I kind of noticed that the more I was joking with them and trying to make levity, the easier their job became, the more relaxed they became in dealing with me. They were going to give up after one try because they couldn't get it down. And I made a suggestion to them because I felt better in the ER when I lifted my right arm. I said, let me lift my right arm. Just let's see if we could try it, just give it the old college try. And they did. And it went down. And we were kind of like, all kind of high-fiving each other. And then there was jokes on my part about what were they bored to the nurse's station at 4 a.m. and we're trying to find something to do. And here I was, she needs an NG tube, so let's try this. But it ended up being a very kind of, it was more levity than I could have imagined for that kind of a moment. And the gratitude that they seemed to feel for me being able to take them there was something that I had never really felt before. I've always had a pretty good sense of humor, which I attribute to my father. He was a businessman in Downers Grove. He was a merchant, president of the Chamber of Commerce, and he kind of knew how to work the room. He knew the power of humor, the fact that it can distract a little bit and kind of, get you also in the moment. And somehow I managed to incorporate a lot of how he was into how I was behaving here. So over the next several days and several biopsies, I called in my ability to compartmentalize the information that was coming in because there was some really serious stuff. The speculations were perhaps I needed to go to MD Anderson in Houston for head and neck surgery because they hadn't identified yet what the cancer was. And I remember because all this information was coming in, it was so frightening. I don't know how, but I somehow made a conscious decision that I needed to figure out a way to take this information in without letting the serious stuff get to me. Because I knew that it would just it could be kind of a crushing blow and I needed to stay focused on trying to get through this as opposed to just being a tub of butter, essentially. So it's like I put up a firewall. I didn't let that information in. And the first doctor that I met from the oncology team was also somewhat conciliatory. So it was good that I was kind of keeping things at a little bit of a distance. I don't think she meant to be that way, but her first impression was such that maybe things were not going to be a good outcome for me. And I kind of sensed that. I couldn't really let that bad news in, and the lurking possibility of head neck surgery or an NG tube, because if they weren't able to get me to swallow it, there would be surgery for an actual feeding tube. I was so worried about all that, but I couldn't let that take away my energy. And the nurses in the meantime had started to comment about my general demeanor and the fact that the humor that I was expressing was making their jobs easier, especially during COVID. They all felt so isolated and kind of out of the mainstream, if you will. And I was kind of bringing them back to that. I could hear my father at this point saying, "Don't encourage her." So here I was, day 3 in the hospital. I met the doctor that would ultimately change my life, Dr. Ahmad Sazur. He was in the same oncology group as the first oncologist, but there was an air of confidence and positivity with him that I just didn't get from anyone else. And he knows I like to joke. He knew I like to joke, but I'm also pragmatic and very curious. And he kind of fed all that. It was a really good relationship. We clicked right away. He had a very straightforward style, and he just seemed so intuitive with working with me. He got to a preliminary diagnosis. They made one biopsy that they had to go back and do a second biopsy. And by this time he was sensing that I was feeling a little frustrated. He worked with the pathologist to get a preliminary diagnosis early on, just to get into the family of cancer that we were dealing with, so that we could kind of move forward to get me treated and not have to do a feeding tube. What he ultimately came to terms with was the cancer that I was diagnosed with. And he got me on a course of chemo that started within, this was on a Thursday that they ultimately gave the diagnosis. Friday, I started a first round of chemo, which was the now famous monoclonal antibodies. It was a dose of Rituxan and a steroid called dexamethasone. Within 20 minutes of starting this chemo, my cancer felt better. The symptoms started to abate. I could talk without having to catch my breath every other word. It was amazing. It was just amazing. Now, obviously, it wasn't treating the cancer, it was addressing the symptoms, but it was so spot on. I found out later that morning, the surgeon that had been working with me wanted to do the feeding tube, and they were getting ready to do it that afternoon. And he was on the phone with Dr. Zarzur that morning in the car. And Dr. Zarzur was like, "No, let me try this. I want to try this. I don't want to have to, do this in kind of invasive surgery. I think this will work." And it did. And it was just, it changed my life, essentially, is what it did. It was just amazing the way that I was responding to chemo. And I was able to start swallow therapy, which you probably don't think you need to do, but it is a skill set after you haven't swallowed for a while. And having to learn to eat foods again was really, it was, boy, you feel so humbled through all of this. So actually, I kind of went through all this, and once I was able to get food down, I was able to be released. Once home, I was finally able to sleep lying down. The NG tube prevented that, but I was able to eat I wanted to eat everything in sight. But since I was still on a liquid diet with soft foods, that Popeye's chicken sandwich would probably have to wait. But since I was learning how to swallow again, I had to practice chin tucks at home in order to swallow. Bread and rice, you wouldn't imagine, bread and rice were the hardest things to swallow because they tend to form kind of a bolus in your throat. And so this all humbling thing, and my whole family was trying to kind of come together to get me, I had to add thickener to even water in order to swallow it because it was too thin. I would aspirate the water. This all happened so fast, you guys. I was talking with someone earlier today about going through cancer and diagnosis and, going through the HMO and the different steps you have to go to. In a way, this was almost a blessing having to go through this through the emergency room, because in this amount of time I was diagnosed and treated, and all this stuff would have taken so long out of, if I was not in the hospital when that happened. So I'm very grateful for that. Dr. Zarzur met me when I started chemo at the Warrenville Cancer Center to see me off to a good start and probably double check, because I had a kind of a raging infection from where they put in the port. I didn't have a lot of discomfort. Actually, I didn't have any pain from the cancer. I did have discomfort from not being able to swallow and some of the other things. And the major problem that I had was actually an infection around my port after that was put in. So he got me off to a good start once I was at Warrenville. And it was just really surreal to be in my own private chemo suite, overlooking the landscape courtyard, the proton center, where hopefully I didn't have to go. The suite was really comfortable. It was really private. and very serene, and it was decorated with every neutral color found in nature. So I'm like, okay, what can I do here? I need to kind of liven this up. And I had known going in that that was going to be the case. So I wore a very bright pair of Frito Kahlo socks with me that day. And it really brightened things up. My doctor noticed it right away. My nurse noticed it right away. The other nurses came in to see it because apparently this was not something that was done. And I was just trying to celebrate my moment there, just kind of, kind of make my own way, if you will. But it seemed like it was kind of, they started looking forward to it. And it got to the point where every chemo session, I was wearing a different pair of art socks to decorate my room. And the nurses at the infusion center would come in and take a look at what the socks were that I was wearing. I brought a few. I never thought that I'd bring a couple of pairs of socks, but I'll show you later. But I started out with the Frito Kahlo. And on Halloween, they all really enjoyed the fact that I wore the Edvard Munch, the Scream socks, because the theming thing and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I was kind of having fun with it. The more that I fed my muse, if you will, the more the nurses and the doctors seemed to kind of be coming back at it. And I was starting to write stuff down as I was going through things, because there was things that were occurring that just seemed so obvious to me that just were basically just observations in life. I'd always had long hair. I opened up a drawer and saw all my headbands and I was bald. So, okay, now what do I do with these? I wrote down that comment. It's a page in the coloring book now. But it was just almost like life observations. But what I was finding as I was talking to the doctors and nurses through this and kind of making my jokes, that a lot of people don't talk like this about cancer. And a lot of people don't joke like this about cancer. And so they encouraged me to kind of go with this and see what I could do. I kept writing my comments down and realizing, as I just mentioned with the headband thing, some of these things really lent themselves visually. So here we are, timeline of Jerry's cancer. It brings us to around Thanksgiving and coming into a quiet holiday season. I'm looking at all my wacky notes, and the seed was sown. I talked to a friend of mine who I had done some creative work with, and talked to her and said, I have all these ideas. Do you think we should illustrate them? She was an artist. She does courtroom art for Chicago, CBS, and some other stations. And she also got an advertising background, which I do too. I worked for the Chicago office of the then second largest advertising agency in the world. And that gave me a decided advantage when it came time to look at people to illustrate the coloring book, especially as I was still connected with many of my art director friends and colleagues via social media. I hadn't done much recently in terms of advertising, but my creative partner and I teamed up on a number of projects. We reached out to another friend of ours with the idea of the coloring book. We knew the coloring was very relaxing, provided different focus. I was seeing in the infusion center, people who were there for 5, 6, 7 hours by themselves during COVID, just having to sit in their chair and be infused. And maybe at some point in time during that, there was something that could maybe change the course for them. Maybe it's a perk or a comment or something that might change the experience for them. And so that's kind of what we look to do with this. I realized also that I had about 50 comments written down, and after Cookie and I stopped laughing about her illustrating them all, we really decided to put our ideas to work and reach out. So we were off. I had all these ideas and comments, 53 of them, and we reached out to advertising friends to see if they might help. I had seen on Facebook someone I used to work with. His name is Tim Sowers. He did the cover of the book, and this is me on the cover. Bald, obviously, and 3 other illustrations in there. Tim and I worked together at DDB. His creative partner created Chester Cheetah, and his creative partner had died of kidney cancer about 7 years prior. So there was kind of a personal connection there that this is kind of good. I see that I couldn't do anything for Brad, but I can do something for you. Another friend that we reached out to, Kathy Grisham, is also an illustrator, but she opted out of doing any illustrations for the book. She thought that her skill set was really stronger with production. So she became my production manager. She was also touched by cancer. Her husband had a very virulent liver cancer, and he died about 5 years prior. And she said he would have hated this book. He absolutely would have hated it. He wanted no one to laugh about cancer. It needed to just be, this is a very stern, very focus very seriously in his life, and that's how he rolled. And she said that she needed to know that people had a different take on cancer. And that's why she got involved, because she wanted to know that it could be something different for people. And so it just, all these little things kind of I never realized when I called people in to even start illustrating the book that it would be touching so many people in this kind of way. And that the reason they wanted to do it was not just because of me, but because of it meant something beyond that. And that was really empowering for me. So of these 53 ideas, 26 of them were illustrated by 15 artists. We reached out to about 30 some artists and we had a lot of response, but I think topics and timing and things like that, I mean, you know, it felt like it did. And we have 26 pages, and that was probably a pretty good size for a coloring book. But Tim Sowers was, he got all the mechanical requirements out there for everybody, and designed the book's cover and the illustrations. But there's 13 of the people in the book are from my advertising career, and 2 of the people, believe it or not, are friends of mine from first grade. They're both artists. I grew up in Chicago in Rogers Park, and somehow we stayed connected to social media. Was a kind of a really dynamic thing for us by some years ago. And then when I found out that I was doing the book, one of the people is, he's retired, but he does cartoons for the Wall Street Journal and Saturday Evening Post. And another friend who did, I heard someone talking about something that threw me to my past today, but I always think of Garfield Goose when I think of this one friend, and we'd be done with school and rush home to see this one little live action series that was on Garfield Goose called Journey to the Beginning of Time. I don't know if any of you remember that, and I'm kind of aging myself here. But there was a comment that I made about going through the PET scan machine, and when you passed through, it felt like I was going back to the journey to the beginning of time. And my friend Andrew Lucas from first grade, that we used to talk about Journey to the Beginning of Time, illustrated that. And it was so cool for me to just kind of see that become to fruition. It's like, how many years ago was that? Now he kind of stepped in to do that. I don't know, it was just kind of crazy. But of all the artists that we, I'm sorry, the whole book came together really quickly and organically. We started assembling the final version. It was time to start figuring out the title. And I kept hearing the word journey as people talked about their cancer. And I never felt like that word applied to me. Journey suggests to me like you had some choice in it, like you could maybe choose your path or something even pleasant. And this was 8 days in the hospital. This was not a journey for me. This was a really crazy experience. And I kind of balked at it. I started thinking that each of the coloring book pages to me started representing not the journey, but they were postcards almost from different points in my chemo. And that's kind of how I arrived at the title Greetings from Chemo Country, because it allowed for all these disparate thoughts to kind of come together under one title, and it was still unifying in the fact that it was still my chemo journey, if you will. So once we decided to do this, Dr. Zarzur and my chemo nurse were really encouraging. They had started talking to Angela McCrum, the director of Living Well Cancer Center out in Geneva, Illinois, to find out whether they would have any use for a coloring book such as this. And I started sending them samples of the finished pieces with some of the artists that have done the preliminary stuff. They were really interested in it. And so we arranged for Northwestern to get a free digital access to the book that they can use in their hospitals and cancer centers. And that was done this May. What I find kind of remarkable about it is that Northwestern is using it differently than just handing out the entire book. They found, as I mentioned earlier, there's people in those chemo suites 6-7 hours, sometimes they need a perk. Giving them the digital version allows them to basically spot treat a patient where maybe a page about the $15,000 haircut is what they need to hear because they just lost their hair, as opposed to dropping an entire book on them because it's maybe a little bit overwhelming. And the fact that they adapted the book to these different things so quickly was just really phenomenal to me. And I still can't believe that they wanted me to do all this, because I felt like I was just being myself and I was trying to have levity and make it easy for all of us to go through it. And it was just like this remarkable coming together that I'm still continuing to feed on. So Northwestern has the book. I just licensed the book this week to a organization in Oswego, Illinois called Camp Out from Cancer. It was founded by a woman named April Shippers, whose 5-year-old son some years back was diagnosed with a medulloblastoma on the back of his brain, which is usually, it can be fatal. It usually is. he went through 4 rounds of chemo in 18 months, lost his hair 4 times. He just turned 16 years old, is now a junior in high school. And the way that she paid it back was they started giving chemo kits to kids when they're confined at home after radiation or chemo or whatever. And they'd give them maybe a fake tent that they could set up over the dining room table or a chair. They'd give them some camping games. They'd give them a craft project to work on, some snacks if they were allowed to have it. So just kind of try and give them almost an escape while they're at home. And there were things that the whole family could do as well. And I licensed the book for them to start using it. And she's going to be using various pages or coloring or the entire coloring book to get out in their chemo kits. And she is also a first grade teacher with a great intuition. And we're pulling together ideas from the kids that she has worked with who have cancer to find out from them what is the weirdest thing that happened to you while you've had cancer? What is the craziest thing that you went through since you've had cancer? We're going to take that and pay it forward for the kids because they are probably the most unbridled that you might find in terms of what they want to say about cancer. And what I really found is nobody is talking about cancer like this. It doesn't mean that you have to. It doesn't mean that you have to like to talk about cancer like this, but apparently it really fed a need that wasn't there. And I was happy to step in because it seems like it's so helpful. And the reward that I'm getting from just seeing the way that people are reacting to the book and my goofy off the cuff comments. And it was like opening a present every time that I got an illustration back written to my words. And I can't imagine what this will do for the kids from Camp Out from Chemo to see their ideas illustrated. It's so empowering. But no good deed goes unpunished. And my benevolent idea carried with it some responsibility. So even though the book idea and why I wrote it was to give back to Northwestern because of my great experience with cancer, which sounds kind of strange. The users of the book wanted to know that they were protected because there's intellectual property in there. So as lines, in order to make sure that I copyrighted the book and it was protected and the people who used it felt like they could hand it out to people and know that the artists were going. It started out as like this little gesture, but it ended up being a whole lot more than that. And now that I'm able to kind of start bringing in places like Camp Out from Cancer, Elmhurst Hospital has started using the books now. Junior Women's Club in Traverse City, Michigan is buying 100 copies to hand out to cancer centers and hospitals up there. It kind of is getting some traction. So it's just kind of amazing where we've gone. So barely a year later, after all this, I could say that cancer really gave me a very different perspective and appreciation for all those around me. I can't say I'm sorry about that. So I owe that piece of chicken a thank you too. I'll be happy to show you those socks if anyone wants to see those, or if anyone has any questions.
You have a couple minutes to get questions.
Yes.
Digital coloring book, or to give a page that they color it digitally or?
Oh no, they can print it out, and then just because they have the capabilities there, so they can print out a page of the book depending on what the person's going through. So there's, well, for instance, this one with the Christmas tree, I had to give myself a shot every time the day after I had chemo of Neulasta. Well, maybe they're getting the Onpro put on. Maybe they're bumming out about it. Well, here. So it's kind of a prompt. It was almost just a way to get yourself out of the moment. Because I found that so helpful for myself that you could let the sturm and drag, it could be so emotional. And obviously, I mean, because there's so much going on, but I couldn't see any other way through it than to try and find humor in it and try and kind of keep myself going. And I knew if I started going down that rabbit hole of self-pity or started wallowing and stuff, I wasn't going to be able to get through this. I had friends who got much more emotional about my situation than I did. And that was kind of an interesting thing too, but everybody takes it differently. Yes.
Are you going to do a different book for children?
Yes. Yes. Camp Out from Chemo and I are starting work right now. April has gotten the word out. She says she already knows who will contribute. So I'm like, okay, great. And a lot of the artists who worked with me on this book are like, let us at it. We are so anxious to do it again. I have a number of different things that I've also written that still haven't appeared. because we didn't do all of them. And I've had several friends who have also been diagnosed with cancer that have come up with their comments that we're putting together another adult book too. Or not adult, but I mean, it's the kids book will be probably decidedly more kids focused, and maybe the illustrations will reflect that. This is a little bit more probably teenager and beyond. So I wasn't sure about Camp Out from Chemo, but some of the pages are more applicable than others. So that's how that will work. Okay.
It's a note from Gigi's Playhouse.
Great, thank you so much. Yes, holy, that's the page.
Oh, that's all right. All right, thank you. Let's see. Wow, I don't even know where I got that. It's gonna be. All right, so let's see where we're at here. And here toward the end. All right, so next week, Forest Summer Project. That's all I know. So we'll all be surprised. We'll have a great time. Jerry, my mom went through all that at Northwestern, so I appreciate you getting that back to Northwestern. And let's see. Who have I picked on? Gary, I haven't picked on in a while. He just gave me that sly look that Gary always seems to give. So how about leading us in the four-way test? Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will goodwill and better friendships beneficial to all concerned? And our quote here, I want to be a participant, not an onlooker. That's why I joined Rotary. It looks like by hey, perfect. So have a great weekend. Go Peacocks.
I want to, as you said now, is there a link by our tickets?
Yeah. Every email is sent out in the last month.